Okay, you can see now we have both of those trimmed just perfect to the same exact shape as required. All right, now we're going to come and put our pattern cutting bit on, and we're going to cut that pattern cut on the inside of these curves. Okay, we stuck our pattern bit in here now, and if you in between we had to raise it with our big flush trim bit. So to find the right height again, what I did is I stuck my coat bit in there again, and I lowered it down, and this is our coat bit, and I found the height that we were at. See? Once I found the height we were at, then I took it out, put my pattern cutting bit in. Now we know we're at the same height for our first coat cuts. All right. Now, you can see here now what we're going to do is we're going to come into here. There's a bearing on the top of this cutter, and that bearing is going to ride on our template, and then we're going to cut. But our cutter is a little bit higher. It's going to run into our template. You're going to put a little profile cut in your template. So we just can't run this thing into that template, or it's going to kick on us. So what I'm going to do first is we have a little straight section here and a straight section here, a straight section here. I'm going to put the fence in here and get the fence flush with our bearing, which we are, okay? And what I'm going to do then is take and run this through just a little bit to get my bearing so we can have a little relief here to get started on. I'll show you in a second. Okay, you can see I got my pattern cut started right here. But what I did is I took a little bit of the template off, which is okay. It'll just be reused like that, everything. Now, when I go to put this up here, when I go to use it freehand now, I can come in here and get started on the bearing because I've already got a relief, like a starting pin. I can get on the bearing real easily and keep cutting. Okay, so we're going to do that next. Okay, we're ready to take and set that template on the bearing and start cutting. Now you can see we have our profile cut right there on the inside of our door. Now we'll take the templates off. We'll cut that same pattern cut on our other stile on the bottom and our stiles on the sides and our bottom rail too. We've got our middle section there. We're going to cut a pattern cut here, and our bottom one we're going to cut a cut there, and then our two stiles we're going to cut a pattern cut on the two stiles. So we're going to do that next. Okay, we're ready to take this over to our workbench again now and glue up our door section. But before we do that, what else do we have to do? Again, we have to put that slotting cutter in there and cut that slot to hold for that panel retainer to hold our glass in. So we'll put our slot cutter in next and do that. Okay, we got our slot cutter in here now, right height. We're going to come into here now and cut the slot. Okay, we got all the slots. Now, if you're really good at cutting glass, which I am not, you could cut a slot in here too if you wanted to, because there's a bearing on there. But what I usually do after my door's all glued up, I'll come in here and take a straight bit and straighten this out so my glass comes in behind here and is straight. So it's up to you. And the same thing occurs on your top section, curved section. You know, get your glass cut the easiest way as possible. So we're ready to take and glue up our door now. Here we go. A lot of people, when they're making grandfather clock doors and so forth, you want to check here, make sure you got 10.5 and 10.5 exactly for your dial for a grandfather clock. A lot of guys will put cut a miter cuts in here, you know, but this styling rail with the glass is so much stronger. And then we'll come in here with that top template later after this is dried. Come in here, nail this to the back and flush trim that off, and it makes a nice strong door that will never come apart on top. Okay, we've got our door done. Okay, next thing we're going to do, all of our side sections and our fronts and backs, we're going to take care of them, machine them, tongue and groove them, and put our carcass of our cabinet together next. Okay, we've got all four of we got our sides here, our front and our back, all four sections ready to do. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to run them through our wide belt here. A lot of you guys don't have one at home. This is what you're going to have to use. Take your random orbital sander and sand all the joints. With our router bits, they come pretty flush, but you have to sand everything up pretty smooth and get it ready to cut the joints to the side. But here at our shop, what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our machine here and we'll run them through our wide belt. Okay, remember all those green marks we had on the front there? They're all gone. I just sanded both sides of this to 0.775, so just perfectly flush everywhere down the road. So, and you guys have a savings account that has 25,000-30,000 in it, this machine will save you a lot of time and effort. But I think you enjoy it more by sanding it by hand and doing it the old way. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these and we're going to cut on the inside here, we're going to cut grooves on our stiles. On our sides, we're going to cut grooves, and on the front and back, we're going to cut tongues to fit into those grooves. But before you do that, you want to make darn sure to keep your clock square that both of these are exactly, the front and the back, are exactly the same width. If they're not, you know, just trim them up on the table saw so they're both exactly the same width. Okay, we're going to check that, and then we're going to come over to our router table and cut our tongues on the ends of the stiles on our fronts and backs. Okay, we've got our front here and our back, and they're both exactly 19 inches wide, what they're supposed to be. We're going to cut a tongue on the front of each one. And it wouldn't hurt to make a small setup block like this with a tongue and a groove, okay? And I labeled this is the side, the front, this is the side. We're going to put a groove in that later. But when they two come together there, see, they're going to be perfectly flush. And this is the good side. You can put the good side down. So it wouldn't hurt to just label this good side. Okay, now this one, this is the side, this is where you could get mixed up. This is the good side as far as what your visual eye is going to see. You're going to look through the clock and you're going to see through the pendulum and everything. This is what you're going to see. But yet, that's not we consider the good side. The good side is the back because that's what we want flush. So we're going to label good on the back. And when we cut the tongues on here, we want to have the good side down there. Okay, so we've got our tongue cutter in the router. We're going to take and set it up. Move this out of the way so you can see. We're going to set that up. Let you see a little bit better there. So that the tongue cutter, and again, remember how we set that tongue cutter at the beginning? We set it so that carbide, that cutter there, was just barely above our stock. Right there. See, that tongue cutter is just barely above it. Doesn't matter where you set it. Once it's set, it's done. You leave it for both the tongue and the groove. You're fine. So wherever you set it's fine. Just that if you can offset it, it's better. All right, we got that set. Now, we're going to come into here. And since we're running these long pieces together and they've already been glued up, we definitely want to use some type of feather guard. Get that centered right there. And again, the 2-finger pressure is all we need. We do a lot of business with schools and stuff, and this is really a nice tool because it not only is a feather board, but it also guards the bit. Okay, we're ready to come into here now, and we're going to take our good side down and run them through. If I got enough room here in my shop here. All right, we've got the tongues cut on both the front and the back. Now we're ready to change bits. We'll leave it at the same height setting, and we're going to cut the grooves for the sides. We're ready to we got our groove cutter in there set at the same height. And to save a lot of headaches down the road, take a piece of scrap wood like this and just run it through and make the groove cut. Okay, there's our side of our, okay. Now we're going to come into here and set it into our front. And you can see I'm pretty dead on, you know, so I should be okay. If you want to do anything, have this piece, raise that bit up and have this piece stick proud a little bit. Once this thing's all glued up, you can always take a flush trim bit and flush trim this off smooth. But I'm going to go for the money right there and cut that groove into our sides. Okay. Now, to do that, we're going to cut on the inside here like this. And what I'm going to do is use my feather board here on the inside to hold it tight into my piece right in here, see? So, put my feather guard right there, push it in tight. That way, I'm not getting any deflection this way. Okay, so we're going to come into here, we're going to cut the 4 grooves on the inside of our sides. Okay, now we're almost ready to put our carcass together, our cabinet together. We can We got tongue and grooves on both sides. But before we do that, there's some more joints I want to cut. We want to cut a groove at the top, on the inside all the way around, and a groove at the bottom on the inside or out for our 1/4-inch plywood on the top and our 1/4-inch plywood on the bottom. So what we're going to do next is we'll go over to the table saw and we're going to cut that groove. We could do it on here, but my ceiling isn't high enough to put up in the router and run it through. So we'll go over to the table saw, and instead of putting a data blade in, we're just going to cut a groove on all 4 pieces on top and bottom. We'll come down about 1 inch and then move the fence and cut it again for a 1/4 inch. So we'll do that next. Okay, I set my fence here to 1 inch. My blade is high enough so it goes halfway through the stock. And we're just going to come in here now and cut a groove on the top and the bottom of our sides, and both sides and the front. Okay, we're going to move the fence in now, or out, I mean, just a fraction, and make another cut. This is our bottom of our back now. Remember your back section, it'll fool you. The inside is where the pattern cuts at. So. Okay, you can see our 1/4-inch plywood is going to fit in there just perfect. Now, and we did on the inside of the whole cabinet. Except the back. I did the bottom on the inside. You can see right here I did the inside, but on the top, what we're going to do on the top is we're going to raise that blade up and cut this completely off, because then when our cabinet is put together, we're going to lock in the floor on the bottom, but on the top we want access, so we're going to be able to slide that top in. So we're going to cut it off entirely at the last setting. When you don't have any helpers around the shop, that's what you got to do to be safe. Okay. Now, the next thing we're ready to do is we're going to dry clamp all this whole cabinet together and see how it fits. Okay, we got our basic carcass put together, our cabinet, the front and the back and the 2 sides, and because the front and the back were exactly the same width and everything, you can see we are perfectly square. Our carcass is perfectly square. You know, that's very important to have it square so that our miters up here fit. And on the back, you can see, remember, our floor is going to be locked in, 1/4-inch plywood. On the top up here you can see where we cut that off. Now our back will come in this knot into that groove, and our top will slide right in like that, and you can screw it down. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to do now is we have our door. We want to get our door fitting here nice. So we got everything cut in the door except the top section. We're going to get the template now. The door's dry. And we're going to cut that top template, use that top template and cut that top of that door next. Okay, here's our door. We've sanded it, everything, you know. Now we got to get that top cut to the right curve. So we're going to take our template here, and what we want to do is make sure we're centered on the template. Then also we want to have it square with this part of the pattern cut. So what I'm going to do is take these two square pieces of wood, stick them right there like that, and that's where my template's going to come down and hit on those, and we're going to center it. And if we're hitting on those right there, and we're centered, we should be right on the money. So that's where we're going to attack our template. And remember, we're nailing to the back of the door. It's not going to show at all very much. Okay, so now we'll come and we'll bandsaw this off, flush trim it, and we'll see if our door fits. Okay, now we'll take it over to our router table and take our flush trim bit and trim that off flush. Okay, we got our flush trimmer in there the right height. The bearing's going to rub on the template, and we'll cut. Okay, got that top cut just to the right shape as our template. These templates make this whole project a lot easier. Okay, all right, next thing we got to do is on the back of our door, cut a 1/2 inch rabbet halfway through, 3/8 inch deep, all the way around, and then we'll see if it fits on our carcass. Okay, I got a 1/2 inch deep cutting, rabbet bit in here. We're going to set for the height for 3/8. Okay, our fence is flush with the bearing, and we're going to cut a rabbet 1/2 inch in all the way around this. Okay, we got our rabbet cut all the way on the inside of the door so we can, and well, now the true test, see if it's going to fit on our cabinet next. Okay, here's our door and our rabbet. We're going to set it in here. And what's nice about our plans, we've gone over those plans enough times that everything should just fit perfect. You got very little side play here, and we got enough play up and down here. So bring it halfway here, and we'll hinge it in 3 hinges there. And the hinges you want to use, we'll have these hinges available. They're just a 3/8 inch offset hinge. And you can put 2 of them in there or 3, whatever you want. So that's just a matter of simply screwing your hinge on to the door and the frame. And you might have to mortise into your frame a little bit, notch into your frame with the hinge. All depends how much room you got there, but you're going to be set. All right. Now the next thing we're going to do, this cabinet will be all put together now with the door and everything. Is we're going to start on the base of the clock. We have some raised panels going along down here at the base of the clock. We're going to cover these sections up here, but some raised panels are going to be made to cover up and give the base of the clock. We'll do that next. Okay, we're ready to start building our raised panels for the bottom section. And you can see in our plans here we got a front raised panel and then 2 side panels on the bottom. And all the dimensions are cut right here for you. We got them all cut out according to the specs right here. Here's our 2 stiles for this will be our right side, our bottom rail, top rail, and raised panel. Okay, to do that now we're going to use our raised panel bits here. The first bit we're going to use is our cope cutter. So we'll stick that cope cutter in there, and that's going to do the end grain on our stiles and rails. Now, if I'm going too fast on any of this for some of you guys, I have a half-hour DVD on building raised panels. So you can go through that half-hour DVD just on the building of the raised panel. It's on YouTube, or we have it at our office. And it goes explicitly how to do a raised panel, but it's not that hard to do. Okay, we're going to set it to the right height, okay? The thickness of this wood is 13/16, so we just take our easy set here and dial it to 13/16. There's our cope bit. All we got to do is get that bit to match up with our gauge there, okay? So I'm going to lower that bit. We have a crank from the top that does this, but the crank from the top, if you had a crank from the top on this router, it's hard to see. You got to get down here to see anyway, so that's why I just use the micro adjuster on the bottom here. Right there, I'm set perfectly to the right height. And I'll lock that bit in and I'm ready to go. Now, when we go to our other bits, our pattern cutting bit and our raised panel bit, again, we don't have to move the height because we're the only router bit company that makes our bits like that, all machined to the right height. Okay, so we're going to set up here. We're going to bring our fence over, get it flush with the bearing, and we're going to cut the cope cuts on our top rail and our bottom rail. Okay, we've got our cope cutter, we got our fence set there. We're going to take the top rail, the bottom rail, we're going to put the good side down and cut our cope cuts. Okay, now we're ready to take this bit out and put our pattern cutting bit in and go with the grain. And we're going to do this in real time just to show you how quick and easy it is. There's my cope bit out. My pattern cutting bit goes in. We lock it in, put our insert ring on. All we do then is bring our fence over, lock it in. We should be flush because the bearings are the same. And we're ready to go with the grain with our stiles and our rails again. Again, we're putting the good side down and running these members through. Okay. Okay, that quickly and easily now, we just made our stile and rail for our panel, right like that. Okay. And the beautiful thing about it, you're dead flush on the front there. Now, the next thing we want to do is make the raised panel to fit there in the middle. Okay? Again, to do that, all we have to do, again, is take our pattern cutting bit out. And stick our raised panel cutter in. Okay? And we're going to take and put the raised panel down and cut that. Now, before we do that, we want to set our fence now. And I'm going to move my fence ahead a little bit and take it in 2 passes. Okay? And again, we don't have to mess around with the height of the bit because the bit is set at the right height. All right. Come into here.